Okay. I think we're still connecting. Hello, everybody. I have, my name is Murray. I have Nicholas and Pontone and Olivia Hobbs and Charleton Simpson with me here. And I'm just looking to see who's in the session. I see 13 other people. So I think we're alive. Can anyone see my screen as well, the slides with geography and environmental studies? Nick and Olivia, can you see those? No, you can't? Okay, so thanks for the test. Let me just try to share again then. Okay, how about now? Good? Great. Okay. So as a way to get started, now that you can see my screen, before we even do that, I wonder, for those of you that are out there, if you could use the chat menu on the right side of the screen. I think it's on your right. If you could send us a message of where you're joining us from today, because it would be great to see who is out there and where are you right now in this virtual world, so we can just get a sense of who's out there. So there should be a chat menu. You can just mention the city or the town where you're joining us from, and then we'll get started. He's in Ottawa. Toronto. Lots of people from Toronto. Finland, wow. Great. Dubai, Chatham. Oh, this is great. Wow, this really energizes me to see who's there. So thank you for participating. Timmins. Oh, great. Well, again, thanks for joining. Good morning, or whatever time it is, depending on where you are in the world. Again, my name is Murray Richardson. I am a physical geographer and geomatics researcher and professor in the Department of Geography and Environmental Studies. I'm the undergraduate supervisor for our program for those particular areas of our program. And I'm here with Charleton Simpson. First of all, I'll let you introduce yourself, Charleton.
Yeah, I'm Charleton Simpson. I am a faculty member who teaches in our environmental studies and human geography program, and a little bit in geomatics. I'll talk about that.
Great. And we also have Nick Pontone and Olivia Hobbs, and they're students in our program that either current or recent. And if you guys could also introduce yourselves, that would be great. How about we start with Olivia?
Hi, I'm Olivia. I'm one of our co-presidents at our Student Society. I'm in my last year of Geomatics, the bachelor's, and then I'm also double minoring in archaeology and Greek and Roman studies.
Great. And Nick, thanks, Olivia. Nick?
Hi, everyone. My name's Nick. I am in the first year of my master's in geography, and I also graduated from the BA undergraduate in geomatics.
Good. Okay. Thanks. So what we thought we'd do, everyone, is, well, first of all, our program is quite broad and diverse with a lot of different offerings. So the first thing that I thought we would like to do is just explain the different programs that we have within our department, and just give you that sort of the lay of the land there. And then also get some more feedback from all of you, all of the participants, to find out what you're interested in, what drew you to this session today, and in particular, which of these programs, if any, or if there's more than one, that's fine as well, are you most interested in? So just to briefly explain, so we are the Department of Geography and Environmental Studies, and we're in the Faculty of Arts and Social Science at Carleton, and we offer both Bachelor of Arts and Bachelors of Science. So that's a first key thing that I wanted to describe and explain, and you may already know that, but just in case. And we have three core areas, I would say. The first three that you see here: environmental studies, or actually the first four, but we can combine them into three, really. So environmental studies, geography and geomatics. We also have this specialization in globalization in the environment. But those first few, so environmental studies, geography, and geomatics, are sort of the main program offerings that that we have, with various streams and add-ons and minor options and specializations. Okay, so within environmental studies, we have a BA. We offer a BA. Within geography, we offer a BA or a BSc, and similarly in geomatics, we offer the BA or the BSc. And so that's the first thing I wanted to mention. And with that, I thought it would be really useful. Charlene and I thought that we would like to find out what are you interested in. So again, we could use a fancy poll, but I think the chat works just fine. If you could indicate for us in the chat what it is that's drawing you here, and when you look at this screen and our main program offerings, which ones are you most drawn to? So I'll give you a second to do that. You can enter more than one. And then we can get a little bit of feedback, and maybe we can even tailor the discussion a bit if there's a lot of particular interests. So environmental studies. Thank you, Ibrahim. Mia, environmental studies, geomatics, environmental studies and geomatics, physical geography, human. So we have already a good sampling, and it looks like a little bit of everything. So that's good. That's useful. And I think on that note, what we'll do, and just to give you a little bit, often what we do in these sessions is we're actually often divided into the different sort of the BSc side and the BA. What's nice today is that we're all together, but it also means there's a lot to cover. But what we don't have is a massive long slide deck for you. We could have done that, but we thought we'd just have the few key ones for each of the programs, and we can, Cheryl and I will tag team and talk about each of these main programs, and then we can also have our student ambassadors that are here, and we can talk to them, and then you can ask us questions. I think the more discussion there is, the more informative it is going to be for everyone. So feel free to use the chat or the Q&A to send questions to us. And on that note, I think I'm going to pass it off to Cheryl Ann. So, well, first of all, I just mentioned briefly, as I said, we do have these BA and BSc options. So that does lead to some confusion sometimes as people are coming into our programs. And we can talk a little bit more about that later in terms of, well, what are the differences? There's a BA and a BSc in geomatics. Well, what is exactly are the differences? And there are some things to consider there, but one of the first differences are the admission requirements. So here we have a quick overview of the main differences in the BA versus BSc, and then I can also just briefly say that all of our programs have a similar structure where we start with foundational courses in first and second year, research methods focusing in the second and third year, field courses are a part of our third year offering, and usually required or almost always required, I think, in most of our programs, at least one field course. We have co-op and practicum and capstone experiences in the fourth year and more specialized courses. So it's a fairly typical structure for a university program, but that is generally how our programs are structured as well. So I'll pass it off to Cheryl Ann, yeah, thank you.
Maria, do you want to?
Oops, sorry, I can't hear you.
So, like I said, my name is Carleton Simpson, and I teach in mostly environmental studies and a little bit in human geography and a little bit in geomatics. And I will just start by saying, when I was choosing schools, my favorite subjects were biology and history. But I couldn't figure out how to do those in the same degree, so I ended up doing a biology degree, and I wish that somebody had told me that environmental studies at Carleton existed, because it would have been the perfect degree for me. And what I mean by that is it's a really great degree if you are interested in lots of different parts of the environment. So on the one hand, there's definitely an opportunity to take some of those more physical classes, and our students take, for example, the introduction to physical geography, where you learn about all the good stuff that Murray's going to talk about in a bit, but we also spend a lot of time really talking about the social side of the environment. And as we think about like in the climate crisis and environmental change right now, we know that we need to understand both of those pieces. We need to understand the politics, the economics, the social side, and that's really what you get in environmental studies. And the other great thing is you get to really specialize as well. So we all start off, in some of the same courses, but then by third and fourth year, we have students that are doing such a wide range of things. Some folks are minoring in geomatics, so they're minoring in physical geography, so they're taking more physical, more biological science courses. Some students are doing a double minor in Indigenous studies and environmental studies, so they're really kind of focused on those Indigenous perspectives as well, and thinking about questions of reconciliation that are so important right now. Some students are more focused on like a policy lens, and so they're taking courses like my course in urban planning, right, where they're really trying to understand how do we think about the laws that go into this. We're taking courses on what we call environmental impact assessment, which doesn't sound very exciting, but I teach it. I promise you, it is really fun. But it's that idea of figuring out how we make sure that what we build is actually going to be helpful rather than hurting the earth. So the point of environmental studies is really great because you get to look at the environment from lots of different perspectives, not just the physical side, not just the political side, but you get to combine both. And I think that's what makes our students, they're just going to be really impactful leaders, I think, moving into the next phase of what we all need to deal with in terms of thinking about things like the climate crisis, but also just thinking about, the environment more broadly.
Great, I'll advance.
It might not be, okay, great, cool. So
there we go.
Then the other thing that we have is we also have a human geography program. And I know, so I teach the intro to human geography class. And so I know that a lot of you, when you think of geography, the first thing you think about is like maps, maybe you think about mountains, rocks, maybe that's what a lot of folks think about. And of course, those are all important parts of geography. But human geography is really about thinking about a couple of different things. It's about thinking about people and our relationship to the rest of the environment. So thinking about, the different cultures, thinking about how countries kind of work together or don't work together. And another really, I think, exciting feature of our human geography program is that we have a concentration in urban geography. So for folks who are interested in cities, right, that's another opportunity to kind of think about these questions from a different perspective. So even if you're interested in like environmental questions, but you're also interested in urban questions, right? It's not just sort of field courses that are, taking you out into the woods. There are also field courses that are taking you out into the streets of Ottawa to really get an idea of how cities work and function. And the urban stream is also international. So we have folks whose research is in Mexico, whose research is in African cities, who are doing research in European cities, Latin American cities. So our faculty is really looking in a very international way, and we bring that into our classes as well. Sort of in the before time, for example, one of our faculty was going to be leading a field course to Havana and Cuba, and that's hopefully something that by the time you guys are in the program, we'll be able to do those kinds of things again. But again, human geography it's this really great way of kind of looking at the world that again combines, questions that you might look at in history or sociology, but it combines them in these ways. But again, lets you look at it from a lot of different kinds of perspectives, and also lets you look at the situation kind of globally. So, like I said, I teach the first year class, so you'll get to come and we'll talk about this for an entire term. I promise you it'll be wonderful.
That's great. Can Charlene, the sound was broken up, but it was fairly cohesive. Like we could, at least I could still piece together what you're saying pretty well. I just want to find out if there will be lots of time shortly to all our participants for questions, but just while we're after Charlene just presented those two parts of our program, I'm wondering, and especially because her sound was a bit broken up, possibly for you as well, do you have any questions for Charlene that came right off the bat, or clarifications for anything that she said just before we move on? But again, there will be time for that after as well. You can feel free to use the chat menu chat window for that. Okay, well, let's see here. Can you hear me, Sherilyn? Okay, great. So I'll talk a little bit about physical geography now. And as Sherilyn mentioned, everyone in the chat window, we can also address your questions in the chat. So if you, as I mentioned, please go ahead and ask questions as we go. I'm going to talk a little bit about physical geography. So one of our programs, and we, as I said, we offer BA and a BSc, and I'll briefly explain that after in terms of the differences apart from the admission requirements. And physical geography is about Earth systems, and it's about studying processes and patterns in space and time over short and long periods of time. It's at the broadest scale. We look at planetary and continental scale processes in the environment, and one of the distinguishing aspects of the field of physical geography, being very interdisciplinary, is that we look at interactions of different systems. So at the broad scale, we're looking at major systems like the atmosphere, the hydrosphere, the biosphere, and the lithosphere, and how at least two or more of those things interact. And this is, if you think about current events related to the climate crisis, for example, and for some of the major wildfires we've seen and flooding events. Well, those are examples of interactions between climate forcing or the atmosphere and climatic systems and forcings from anthropogenic gas inputs and their interactions on and effects in the hydrosphere or the biosphere. So forests igniting, for example, and spreading is the biosphere component. Hydrosphere is water cycling and rivers and flooding and that sort of thing. So physical geography is a branch of natural studies that investigates these processes and patterns across these different major systems. And we explore a whole variety of questions. And when I talk about, I don't have that slide, but we are highly integrative and often drawing on some of the pure sciences like biology, physics, chemistry, and so on. But really bringing them together, and obviously not going as in depth as if you were to specialize in those programs, but pulling from those different disciplines to answer really pressing problems in the world. So a lot of our faculty members, for example, work in very applied areas of research. We have an emphasis on northern studies, but not only. So looking at, for example, permafrost in northern environments. We look at wetland ecosystems and their effects on water flow regulation and water quality. Also a whole variety of different topics. And of course, geography being highly interdisciplinary, also looking at intersections with the social environment and human systems, with the human and physical geography interactions. So that's a key part of the lens that we use in our investigations. As I said, we have the BA and the BSc. So one of the key distinctions in physical geography is if you take the BA, you're taking a concentration in physical geography, and you choose the concentration in physical geography, you're focusing less on, so all the core courses are in physical geography and geography are the same. So you take those same core set of courses, but your additional courses are more prescribed, especially in the BSc program, towards more science courses and maths as well. So the key distinction there is that you'll be surrounding your physical geography education with more on the natural sciences and traditional sciences as well. And that can be important, for example, if you, depending on your career path that you're choosing, or if you plan to go on to graduate studies for an MSc versus an MA, that distinction can become important. Now, I'm also going to talk about geomatics. And again, we offer a BA and a BSc in the geomatics program. And geomatics is a term that, is not necessarily widely known in society, but it is a discipline in a field, and it encompasses a variety of subdisciplines. And these are things that terms that you may be more familiar with, like geographic information systems, or GIS, remote sensing, satellite and drone or UAV remote sensing, or airborne remote sensing. Geodesy is a term that's maybe some people are less familiar with, the study of positioning and accurate positioning in the shape of the Earth and how we position ourselves on it using GPS or GNSS technology. And cartography, of course, is an element of geomatics as well, which pulls directly from GIS, is a key component of GIS. So geographic information systems includes computerized mapping, online mapping, and spatial data analysis. And it's hard to think of many things that don't have a spatial component, right? Obviously, as geographers, we're a little biased towards that opinion, but GIS can play a role in such a wide variety of applications, both on the human and the physical geography sides, and also environmental studies. So GIS is a really core part. And in our program, you have an introduction I teach the first year course in geomatics, where you're introduced to GIS. You get a little smattering of different subdisciplines of geomatics, including geodesy and surveying, methods with global positioning systems, remote sensing, and so on. And then as you move on in the course, you specialize into the much more technical aspects of the discipline. And geomatics is really having a majorly growing influence in society. The discipline has exploded in the past decade, and has become a really important area for our students when they pick up, sometimes even through a minor. We have a minor as well in geomatics that can provide these fundamental skills, computer-based skills in geomatics and GIS that are often quite helpful to get a foot in the door in the job workplace. It's very practical with a really wide range of applications. And traditionally, I think, at least in my background and training, for example, and I think, I'm not sure how widespread this was, but traditionally GIS had a little bit of a natural science and physical geography focus, but that is really old news now, right? So GIS now has a really and geomatics has a much broader application in society. And one of the, I think, distinguishing aspects of our program at Carleton in our department is that we really are not just focused on that particular narrow scope or application of geomatics. We really have our faculty, like Cheryl Ann and another faculty member, Dipto Sarkar, are human geographers and social scientists that focus on the application of geomatics in those disciplines. And so that we have a good balance between the way that geomatics are applied and taught in our program, whereas in other programs, often it's very focused on the physical science and applications. So that's a key part that I wanted to mention about our program. And I think that is close to sort of summing up what we wanted to talk about. We offer a lot of hands-on opportunities. So in addition to applied lab assignments and workshops and seminars at the first and second year level, we also offer these field courses. So there's an honors field course either in the spring or the fall of each year that our third year students going into fourth year students take. And this is usually highly integrative in integrating both physical and human geography and different field techniques, and interviewing and surveying, so drawing on both quantitative and qualitative methods. And this is always, again, in normal times. As we go back to that really soon, hopefully, these will be back online. We've still been offering them in a different augmented form, but really getting back to the actual field part of field courses, we're hoping to come back starting next year. And here are just a few examples of photos from that. I actually have been involved in some of the field courses as well. We offer every 2 or 3 years. We also offer a for the physical geographers and BSc students that are really interested in the physical science side of things. We offer a physical geography field course, which is focused more on the quantitative methods and field measurement techniques. And that's so every 2 or 3 years we offer that. We also have Practicum and Co-op. So a unique part of our program is that even before we join the co-op option at Carleton, we have a Practicum option. So our students in almost all of our programs are actually required to take at least one Practicum credit. So that's one semester course where you're working in a work placement. So a real world placement with a government agency or a nonprofit or a private business. And you work 70 hours and you get some experience that you can put on your resume, and you get credit towards your degree as well. And some students elect to actually do 2 of those. So that's also a neat option. And then we do have the co-op option as well in some of our programs, including Geomatics and Geography. Charlene, are you comfortable talking about the Begins program at all as well? Oh, we lost her. Oh, yeah, she left. Okay, so we have this specialization that's jointly offered by the Faculty of Public Affairs, and we host one of the specializations in this program, so Global and International Studies, and which is a specialization in globalization in the environment. So this is really for students who want to learn more about really the international world from a broader perspective that we live in, and again, quite a interdisciplinary program. So I see one question in the chat, and I'm going to look at that. Hello, my Renalu. Okay, so I'm assuming the basis for BA and BSc for physical geography is the same, but BSc goes more deeply into maths and sciences. Yes, so basically, once again, the core courses in the BA and BSc within the geography program, in this case, physical geography, are almost identical. However, there are more different required courses in the BSc. So I guess you wouldn't, so you wouldn't think of those as the core courses, but they sort of are core courses as well, but they're core courses outside of our program. So those would include, for example, math requirements and some science. So the electives are constrained to programs in the science. So probably about, probably 6 to 8 of the electives are in a science program, okay? As opposed to in the BA, those electives can be anything, almost anything. So the key is like how many science courses you're taking in the entourage of of the core courses in our program in physical geography. Okay, hopefully that explains that. Now, I think that's all for the formal part of the presentation. And what I'd like to do is, first of all, remind you to ask questions and use the chat menu or the Q&A to do that. And while we're doing that, and while you're maybe thinking of those questions, we're going to spend a little time meeting with our undergraduate student ambassadors. Well, Nick is actually in the master's program now, but I have a few questions, and this is formal/informal. So I do have some pre-assigned questions, but you are in the audience are also totally welcome to offer some, ask your own questions. So these are just sort of to get things going. Okay, and the first, let's see, the first question, I think I'm going to jump ahead, Nick and Olivia, to one that I think might be better for kicking things off, which is the why I chose this program and what you hope to do with your degree. I think that sort of gets really to the meat of what maybe a lot of people want to hear, and then we'll come back to some of the more specific questions. So, Olivia, I see your mic is off, so how about we start with you?
All right. Well, I didn't start off in geomatics. I actually started off in the Global and International Studies program. Ironically enough, it wasn't in the specialization that was in our department. I was in global politics, and it just really didn't click with me. So then one day I was going home on the Via Rail, and I found geomatics on our Carleton website. I'd never heard of it before. But the more I looked into it, the more I found I was interested. I was really interested in the archaeology implementations of it with like LiDAR and things like that. I really like how like cross interdisciplinary it is. I'm hoping to do my master's in urban planning. So we'll see what happens after this year. Yeah, that's about it.
Oh, so you're thinking of doing going on to do a master's in urban planning, you said?
Yeah, that or the Northern Studies program at Carleton is quite interesting as well. I'm working with Peter right now, so.
Okay. Great, thank you. And Nick, how about you?
Yeah, so
How you
when I
chose?
was doing my undergrad, I also didn't know what geomatics was. I was originally in the environmental studies program. But then like I was started to talk to some people, and it was just like the geomatics program seemed like such a cool way to just like blend technology and science and sort of all the things I was learning, and it seemed like a lot more interesting for me. And I liked it so much here that I decided to come back for another for another 2 years to do my master's. I really like the department here. It's very collegial. There's a lot of really good research happening here, and it's just a great place to be going to school.
Great, thanks. Yeah, and thanks for mentioning that. I mean, it sounds maybe a bit odd coming from one of the members of the department, but it's nice to hear from a student saying that the department is collegial, obviously among the students, and also I think you were referring to hopefully the faculty. But I can say, I've been here for 10 years now, over 10 years, but the size of the university and the size of our department, I like to tell people, we're in a medium-sized program in a medium-sized university in Canada. And that sounds very average, I'm sure you're thinking, but taken from someone who I attended a very small university for my undergraduate education, and then at Trent University, I went to U of T for my graduate school. So I went from two extremes, very small to very large, and I've ended up in the middle. And what I can say is that from my perspective, is that it offers the students really the best of both worlds. So you're in a medium-sized city as well, with lots to offer, but not overwhelming. Good quality of life. The university is not overwhelmingly large. The class sizes are reasonable and actually quite small, often in our program. And so you get to know your profs, and we do have a very collegial group among the faculty. So lots of new faculty members, lots of energy, and most definitely collegiality and appreciation for the different sides of our disciplines, I think, is a really important part of our program. So thanks. Okay, so that's good. And what now this is a little bit more for students that are coming into first year, which might even apply to any university, but maybe specifically to Carleton, if there's anything specific. What can incoming students expect in the first month of being a student, guys? I know you're moving on into your fourth and beyond years. So Nick, you're in grad school, but can you think back to that first month of being a student and tell us what it was like?
Yeah, sure. So it does, like in your first year, they sort of ease you into it. Like it doesn't just, ramp up to 100 right away in the first week. Like I don't know if you heard about syllabus week, but it really does exist when you're in first and maybe second year. It starts to go away a little bit later, but there's really not going to be a lot of work or anything super intense in the first week. Maybe some readings. So you can like take that time to really like get to know campus. If you're going to campus, you can like meet people in your classes. Super important. And then sort of through there, like past then, like the workload just starts to sort of slowly ease up as you start going through the end of and I'd say like at the end of the first month, you're full swing into the program.
Great, thanks. Olivia, do you have anything to add?
I think the first month is really good to like get acquainted with campus, but also I might be like partial because I helped run 2 clubs, but like join clubs, get involved. It makes it a lot easier when you have people and you can kind of suffer through the harder parts of classes together, which is good. And then also enjoy like study clubs and whatnot. So I definitely recommend, regardless where you end up, look into clubs, look into societies, get to know people in your first month and get involved on campus.
Would you guys be up for talking a little bit about QGESA, actually? I know we don't have tons of time. I'm seeing we have maybe 6 or 7 minutes to go. So I'd love to hear, for our audience, to hear about QGESA. and then maybe hear if there are any more questions for you guys from the audience. So two things for the audience members. If you have questions for our student panelists, please type them into the chat. And meanwhile, Olivia and Nick, if you could tell them a little about our student association.
Yeah, our student association, I think we're doing some good things. It's definitely been an interesting transition to a pandemic life, but we're starting to get more events in person. We did a walk this semester. We're hoping to do like a tote bag decorating event. We do coffee hours every week. Sometimes there's a bigger turnout, sometimes there's not. But we do a lot of trivia. We're working with a lot of other clubs and societies on campus. So we're really just trying to get you a good student life experience. There's lots of giveaways, and we're just here to support you in your academic and social ventures at Carleton.
Great. Yeah, it's been a really, and we've been, from a faculty's perspective, we've been super appreciative of how the QGS has evolved and grown in the past few years. It's just, and again, it's been difficult with the pandemic, but leading up to that, and no doubt after, it's been a really, really amazing opportunity and resource for the students. So I'm just looking at the chat, and I'm looking for questions. So I do see another question. I'm just answering the one about computer science. So actually, instead of typing it, why don't I just explain? There's a question about how much computer science is involved in geomatics. So definitely it is a core component of geomatics, but it's taught in our program in a very accessible way. So some of our students sometimes take a minor in computer science. What I hear from students in the computer science that do take those courses, and we do require you to take a couple as part of the DSC geomatics, is that it's very, it gets very, computer science courses for some people, can, even students in our programs, can be really challenging, but and not always directly applicable to the geomatics. So we teach what is needed to be known, including in second year, we have an introduction to geospatial programming. So basic computer science programming constructs applied to geographic data, right? And so it's a gentle introduction to computer programming applied to geography, as opposed to like, full-blown introduction to programming with C++ or Python, right? So it is, we teach it with Python, but it's a good gentle introduction. And I think that applies throughout we teach you what you need to know at a level that's appropriate for the discipline. Some students go on and focus more on computer science and then can follow those types of career paths. Yeah, and Olivia, thanks. So you came in with no coding experience. Yeah, and I think you were after the cohort that experienced that new course that we have in the introduction to geospatial programming. So that's a new addition, which probably would have helped you. But I'm glad that it was, things worked. Cheryl-Ann, we lost you for a bit. Do you have anything you'd like to say? Or we're sort of running low on time, I think I heard from Stenley. So we're just polling the audience for questions right now. Okay. Meanwhile, while we're waiting for any more questions, do you guys have any, let's see, if we look at our questions, what have been the challenges and benefits of completing courses online? Like, maybe we talk about the current reality, which hopefully we're pulling out of right now, but how has it been for you guys? I mean, a lot of our student audience has been dealing with similar challenges, so in high school, I'm sure. So how has it been at the university level?
Yeah, I don't think I really realized how much I missed in-person classes until I came back to them. Because I'm mostly in person this semester, thankfully, but I find that it's like a lot harder to really engage with your courses when you're online. And in my opinion, that's like one of the most important things about university, is not just going to class, but actually sort of engaging with them and trying to get the most out of your education beyond just what's on the slides, I guess. Going to class, asking questions, working through things with your peers, like all that sort of gets missed online. But then, obviously the benefits of online are convenience and not having to commute, and which I like too, but I'll always pick going campus.
Olivia, anything to add?
No, I definitely agree. Like, online classes are not my cup of tea when they're all of your classes, but I usually take about one or two even pre-pandemic online, just because It's a lot easier than commuting every single day to campus. So you can also like knit, crochet during lectures, which is not the best practice, but it engages you.
Great. Caroline, there's a question on, oh, did we end? What happened? Nope. Okay, I lost my window. Caroline, there's a question about what are the main focuses in human geography. I wondered if you could, oh, you answered in the chat. Do you want to talk a little bit briefly and maybe we can wrap up? I think we are scheduled to end at 9:45. So we'll wrap up in a couple minutes, but I'll let you answer that question.
We'll see how this works. But yeah, like I said, a lot of our faculty have a focus in sort of urban geography, but again, urban geography in lots of different places. And then we have, so again, you know, my research, for example, is mostly in Canada, but I look a lot in like on the prairies, actually, even though I'm from Toronto, which is always very confusing to people when I'm there. But, you know, we have folks, like I said, looking at Latin American cities. We have one faculty member in particular that looks at housing in Mexico City. So she's down there quite a bit and also like involves classes in that work. You know, we have faculty members that have worked in African cities as well, and, you know, European cities as well. So lots of different cities. We also have a really strength in what we call political ecology. So it's this idea of combining ideas around politics and the environment. And we have folks that are working in northern settings as well. We have one faculty member that looks at the sort of politics of salmon farming in Alaska. Another faculty member who has like a long-standing relationship with some Inuit folk working around like questions around mining and the politics of mining. So we've got this kind of, those are two kinds of combinations. We also have a brand new faculty member who looks at water justice. And so she looks at water justice again, this combination of the environment and politics. And she does work with folks in South Africa, in Detroit, in Colombia. She's actually going to have to, she might have to cancel class next term because she has to go to this big global water forum in Dar es Salaam. So those are some of the kinds of works that folks are doing. Also, again, a lot of work around kind of like economics and a little bit of work around health as well.
Great. Okay, yeah, we were able to hear you again. It was a bit broken up, but it's not bad enough that we can't understand. So thank you very much. And I think we'll wrap up. I don't see any more questions coming in. What I guess my final advice is I'm going to paste a link to our staff and faculty program. There's lots of links I could give you, and I'm sure you've visited our webpage. But for that one, if you go to that one, just to point out that if you have questions, maybe I can even, can you see my screen if I show you this now? Can you see the faculty page? Whoops. If you guys can give me a verbal cue because I can't see you. Can you see the faculty page?
No.
No? Okay. It's not working. Never mind then. In the link that I gave you, though, you'll see that there are, under my name, for example, you're going to see Undergraduate Physical Geography and Geomatics Program Supervisor. And currently, our Program Supervisor for Undergraduate Human Geography and Environmental Studies is Paul Williams. You'll see his name there. You could also, Cheryl Ann is filling in for him here today and can answer the questions as well. So I'm going to offer, if that's okay, Cheryl Ann, that they could also contact you for any follow-up questions. So if you go to that page that I linked to for further questions, you can talk to me about human and physical geography. Just send me an email, Paul or Cheryl Ann, about environmental studies, human geography or begins program and urban studies and so on. If you have questions about co-op, then John Milton, you'll find, if you look for the term co-op, John Milton is the person to ask about co-op placements. And that's all for now. I think we'll wrap up. So thank you very much for all of you that joined from all parts of the continent and beyond. It was great to have you here and have a nice showing of people. So thank you very much. And that concludes our session. So hope to hear from you over email if you have any further questions.